Hello, spooky friends, and welcome back to part 2 of making a Haunted Mansion sundress. Over the course of last week, I spent way too much time focused on a mock-up, trying to decide which of the patterns I was going to use to make this dress that I have got to make. It's stuck in my brain. It's literally bored holes in my brain and it will not leave. I've already purchased all the supplies, so it's happening because it's not going to end up in the closet of doom. I swear. And I just spit. So, I originally bought 7 yards of this purple Haunted Mansion fabric. I want to show you guys. In case you didn't see my fabric haul. It is purple with glowy green bits of Madame Leota. There's the bat. Some of the wallpaper print. Like, there is a lot to this fabric. I absolutely love it. I already took off the yardage that I needed to make Nick's shirt because I wanted to guarantee that I had enough and that I didn't end up shorting myself by doing it the other way around. Doing it this way, it left me 4 1/3 yards, plus I've got like lots of large chunks. So I will put those to use. I also ended up picking up focus on the buttons, not on me. There we go. Almost. You're so close. There you go. I ended up picking up these really pretty velvet buttons. They are machine washable. Don't look at me. Look at the buttons. There you go. I decided that I am going to go with this pattern after all. It needs a lot of work though. There's no way that I can just jump into this with things exactly the way I left it after last week. I'm going to have to do another mock-up to accommodate the cup adjustment. I'm probably going to steal the cup adjustment out of the Butterick version of this pattern. I think that will give me the D cup I need. I hope. The other thing that I really want to do is to put boning in it. I picked up about 800 million yards of plastic boning. It does not have the nice channel that you can just stitch into place like you can get at Joann's. But because I use so much boning, it was cheaper to go this route. I get it on Amazon. I can put a link below for that. The other thing that I have to do with this dress is I do have to make this a circle skirt. One of the elements that I liked about the Butterick pattern the most was the fact that it was at least partially a circle skirt, and it didn't give me any extra bulk in the waist and hip region the way a pleated skirt will. It's a little bit of a sore spot for me. So I'm thinking I'm going to dig out my favorite circle skirt pattern from my inventory and hope that I can Frankenstein it with this. This whole thing has been giving me anxiety since the day I came home with this fabric because I love it so much that I genuinely do not want to screw it up. I want to make it right. I want it to look nice. I want to do justice to the fabric. And it wasn't cheap fabric, so I really definitely don't want to ruin it. Which is why I went through all the hem and haw last week. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to dig out the unfinished mock-up to see what I need to do to it. So let's talk about adjusting this pattern a little further so that it fits me. One of the things that I found with my mock-up is that it was a little snug in the waist. That was like the least of the problems with my mock-up. And so the easiest way to give myself an extra 1/2 inch is I'm going to slice the back bodice piece. Here, let me show you. I've got it sliced from here almost to the top. Not quite to the top. The waistline portion of this is open 1/4 inch, but the top of it is still sealed. So I'm not adjusting top measurement whatsoever. This will give me a total of 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch on the left, 1/4 inch on the right, in order to make my back waist a little bit more ease. So I'm taking the D-cup adjustment out of my butterick pattern, and I'm going to use it as a little bit of a guide to help me figure out exactly where I want my D-cup adjustment on my simplicity pattern to live. And so I'm just going to overlap them and play with them until things line up nicely. I'm never going to get my notches perfect because they're two completely different animals. So I'm using the base of my arm side as my starting point to figure it out. Because this doesn't come all the way up to here, I'm gently marrying the two together. Okay, here is my previous version, here is my new version, and this one's going to give me a whole lot more room in the boobies. Okay, now that I have all of my pattern pieces hopefully closer to the right size, I am going to cut it out one more time out of this red gingham and see if my math is correct. Okay, so making the couple of adjustments that I have made fit so much better. I still have a teeny tiny bit of pulling right here, but that's like negligible. Like I could totally fix that very easily enough. And the bottom seam where I let this out a total of 1/2 inch makes it fit so much better. Oh my god, it's so hot. Like I'm completely I'm schwitzing. I'm red, I'm sweaty, I'm puffy. It's 100 and something degrees outside right now. Yay, Florida. But this is overall a much better fit. Now that I've done that mock-up, I feel a whole lot more confident in actually cutting into my Haunted Mansion fabric. I'm going to use this Simplicity pattern to sub out the box pleated skirt that comes with this pattern. It's my absolute favorite. It's super simple in that it literally only has 2 side seams. I'm still going to add the pockets. Okay, I have got my circle skirt fully assembled. I have got my pockets inserted. And I did flat felt all of my seams to add extra strength and durability. So I'm just going to let this hang overnight so that way if there's going to be any wonkiness in the drape, then that can sag out and I will deal with reshaping it tomorrow. But I don't have any of my seams on a bias, so I shouldn't have too much stretch. Since I decided that I'm going to bone the bodice of this dress, I cut the 4 bodice pieces out of my print, my outer layer, and then I also cut 2 pieces of each out of my lining. Instead of doing facings, I'm just fully lining it, and I'm going to basically treat it the same way that I do my corsets and my stays, and use my lining layer as my structural integrity layer to like case my boning and do all that kind of fun stuff. So I'm not 100% going to follow the directions, because since when do I follow directions? I've got all of my bodice seams assembled, and this will never lay truly flat without assistance, and so you can either go in and put notches in here, or you can just trim it with a pair of pinking shears. Since my boning doesn't have the cloth casing that I can use to just stitch it in place, I have to create a casing. To do that, I'm tacking my seam allowance of my lining down. I'm going to sew a channel just a skosh wider. These are 1/4 of an inch, so I'm going to sew my channel a little skoshy bigger than 1/4 of an inch, but not quite 3/8 of an inch. When I'm working with my boning, I start off by inserting it into my boning channels and then cutting it just to the length of that piece. It's really just a rough cut, and I will go back and trim everything down to size before sewing it all into its final position. So whenever I am working with boning that comes on a roll, it always has a little bit of a curve to it like this. And so to flatten it out, once it's in place, give it a quick iron, let the heat permeate the plastic. It's incredibly hot when this happens because plastic. And then I come back and I put a tailor's clapper right on top of that until it cools. This will absorb the heat out of it and allow it to keep its shape. See? Now that is nice and flat. And then I also have rounded all of my corners so that they are not pokey. Okay, so remember how I said in the beginning that because I was going to fully line this instead of using the facings, I was going to have to go off book? Well, this is how. I pinned my button panel, that front panel that runs down the front of the dress, to both my lining and my fashion layer. But I didn't pin it all the way down. I stopped about 3 inches from the end so that way I can still add the skirt. But this will allow me to encase these seams very nicely. I'll show you. Both of these I'm going to press in towards the button placard, like that. And then I'm going to meet them in the middle. Okay, so let me show you what I have. My fashion layer and my lining are pinned together, right sides together, with my placard pre-sewn most of the way, and then my straps are in here somewhere. There are my straps, so they're safely, securely in there. So when I sew this seam, I can flip everything right side out, and that'll have these seams secured inside, and this edge of the placard will end perfectly in line with the edge of the bodice. I have got this top seam sewn, and then while it was inside out, I also understitched my lining in place. So in addition to actually keeping the seam in place, it'll also act as a barrier so that my boning will never go any higher than that. And that'll keep places like my armpits safe from being poked. So at this point, I can go ahead and attach my skirt to my bodice, and then finish attaching the facings, and then finish attaching the button placard. Oh my god, it is so hot. I couldn't go outside. I could not go outside because it's 11 o'clock and it's already 1200 degrees. It's already 110 degrees. Like, no joke. Seriously, I wish I were exaggerating to say, but it's not. It's already 110 degrees outside. So I hope you guys don't mind studio reveal footage, because I want to keep this clean and pristine for my cruise in October. Final thoughts on making this dress. I should not have had to spend 2 weeks to make a simple cotton dress. Like, this is my new normal though, for one. For two, I don't have a single regret with doing multiple mock-ups until I got this right, because the fit makes me so incredibly happy. All I can say is any questions whatsoever that you might have with fit, you have to do as many mock-ups as possible. Like, that's my absolute best recommendation. Utilizing the other pattern to create a D-cup bust adjustment, while that's not the technical way of doing a bust adjustment, it worked. Plain and simple, it worked. And I'm okay with that. So, here's to one more dress done. Also, if anybody is interested, the bat belt I did get off Amazon, and I will link it down below. Okay, friends, thank you so much for hanging out with me this week. I hope you all have a beautiful, beautiful week ahead of you, and I will see you all next time for some more fun fabric and shenanigans.